help me welcome our first speaker, who is in his third year at UW studying molecular biology and on the pre-dental track, Jinshi-san.
Hello everyone, my name is Journy. I also go by Jin if that's a little bit easier. I am currently a third year studying molecular biology. Like previously mentioned, at UW on the pre-dental track. I had graduated from North Creek High School. So when I was thinking about how to prepare this presentation and kind of portray to you guys what UW means to me, I kind of came up with these 3 B-reels I took in the past 2 years. So I have honestly had a blast at UW. I think it's a terrific school. If you are anyone who's considering any kind of career in any of the STEM fields, medicine, engineering, CS, I think UW is an incredible school. There's quite literally tens of thousands of students. So there's a lot of people, but there's a lot of really good opportunities and a lot of really good resources. Next slide. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about my kind of personal application journey because it's a little bit on the more non-traditional side. So I guess for context, in high school I had a 398 GPA, I took 11 APs, I had a 1490, and did a bunch of other extracurriculars. And I'm not saying this to gloat, but what I'm trying to say is even though I had all these different, credentials, I actually was initially waitlisted for UW. I applied for biochemistry because I knew I wanted to do some kind of medical or healthcare career in the future, and biochemistry I think is the only direct admit major that you can take that's kind of along the lines of medical, and that's why I applied for it. And unfortunately, I guess I didn't get it the first time, and I was really heartbroken for a good 2 months because UW was the one school that I really wanted to go to. All my close friends were going, and I knew it was a really good school. It's in state, so naturally tuition would be a little bit cheaper, and I wasn't given admission straight away. And for roughly 2 months, I kind of fought in denial, thinking that maybe I was just unlucky, maybe there's someone else out there who had my spot. And eventually on May 1st, which I think is National Decisions Day, when you have to make a decision as to what school you're going to go to, I committed initially to University of Florida. And University of Florida is a great school. Don't get me wrong. They gave me a scholarship and a direct admission to the program, but my heart was still with UW. And for roughly a month after, I kind of waited for the waitlist to eventually come out. Because after May 1st, all the students who've made their decisions kind of confirm their spots. The rest of the openings are given to the waitlisted students. And unfortunately, I actually didn't get off the waitlist either. So I think it was end of May when I received the email telling me that basically the waitlist closed and I was confirmed rejected from the school. And I kind of thought that was going to be it. Like, I didn't think I was going to make it in. And so you might ask, how am I able to talk to you all today being a UW student? So that comes in 2 weeks later when a really close friend of mine who's a year older told me about the appeal process. And initially I was really kind of hesitant about doing it because I'd already been rejected twice at this point. So I figured, what are the odds I'm actually going to get in on my 3rd try? But I still really love the school and I really wanted to go to UW. And so I appealed, and luckily for me, a week later, I actually got an acceptance letter. So that I think was end of June, I believe. So that's like 2 months before school started. But immediately the same night, I withdrew my enrollment from University of Florida and I took University of Washington's offer. And so here I am 2 years later, and I'm very happy that I did. And the reason why I want to kind of share the story with you all is for the high schoolers in here, I think in high school you have a lot of support systems in your life. You have your parents, you have your communities, and you have teachers that for the most part care a lot about whether or not you're actually learning. In college, you're very much on your own. And I don't mean this in the sense that you don't have these same support systems, but for the most part, they're greatly diminished. Your parents, chances are your parents probably won't be by your side to tell you to do your homework, to study for exams, to sleep when you should. And your teachers honestly probably care even less. There's hundreds of students that they teach every single quarter. And for the most part, unless you go out of your way to really want to learn and take initiative, it's really hard to succeed in college. So I'm not saying this to scare anyone here, but I'm kind of saying this as a precaution that in high school, when you have this freedom and you have this time, really make the most out of your education. And in college, make sure you take initiative to get to where you want to be. And you're the only person who can really decide what kind of a life you want to live, what kind of a person you want to be. And if you have a dream out there, let's say to become a doctor, to become a lawyer, or some kind of role that takes a lot of competition and effort to get there, know early on that this is your goal and you need to take initiatives to get there. So next slide. So I kind of want to share a couple more lessons, I guess, that I've picked up in these past, 3-4 years of both college and also high school. And so earlier, Monica kind of already brought this up, but I think the first and foremost qualification is your education. When you're in high school, challenge yourself. Just the same way that any athlete pushes himself to exhaustion, or person trying to put on muscle, has to really take everything to failure. If you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone and really try to grow, there's really no other way to do it. In high school, when you have this time, take as many APs as you can, take as many IBs as you can, and really try to learn as much as you can. In college, everything is way more fast-paced. You're flying through a year's worth of content maybe in a span of 10 weeks, 11 weeks. And so there's a lot less time. And so the earlier on you can kind of prepare yourself for this and set a good foundation in high school, the much easier the transition will be into college. And my second point I guess I wanted to make was about exploring different extracurriculars. So earlier, Monica also brought this up too. I think for the most part, any student who's applying to a generally competitive school, whether that's your top 10, top 20s, your IBs, or even UW nowadays, I think most students who are applying for the more competitive majors, like for instance biochemistry or CS and so on and so forth, everyone has the stats. Everyone has a high GPA, everyone has SATs and ACTs. It's your extracurriculars that make you stand out. So I recommend anyone who's in high school to really consider the communities around you, whether that means taking leadership and you're starting clubs, or you're involving yourself in different kinds of objectives, or you're really out there volunteering. I think, and especially if you're someone who's thinking of going to the medical field in the future, there's a lot of soft skills that you really can't learn unless you live it yourself. And in high school, I think that's the perfect time to do so. For the most part, you have a lot of time, you have a lot of freedom. Explore different things that you're interested in. If you want to pick up a new sport, if you want to pick up a new instrument, do it by all means. And eventually in the future, at some point, chances are you'll end up using these skills that you've learned. And I think my third point is to prepare early. And kind of along the same lines as my last point, because I'm someone who pretty early on knew that I wanted to do some kind of medical healthcare profession, I knew that I needed to prepare a timeline for myself. Or else chances are I would probably need to take 1 to 2 to 3 or even more gap years in between my undergrad and my graduate school. And so if you're someone who's a 9th grader or 10th grader, you don't have to I'm not telling you right now, it's a 9th or 10th grader, you have to prepare all of your college materials. But start thinking about what you want to do. Start thinking about maybe the road it takes to get there. Because honestly, there's a lot of professions out here that are very cutthroat. It takes a lot of work, and the best way you can prepare is to think ahead. And if you are someone who's planning to apply to college in the next 2 months or maybe next year, start thinking about what majors you want to apply for. Really do research into the schools that you want to go into, the programs, what they offer, and especially for things like letters of recommendation that are, I think, pretty capacity constrained. Definitely have those kind of plan out early on. I remember when I was going into my senior year of high school, I think pretty much all the good teachers were completely filled up in the first 2 weeks, because all the students who knew that they needed a letter of rec would go to them, ask, and realistically your teachers only have so much time on their hands to be able to churn out 10, 20, maybe 30 letters of rec in the first 2 months of school, right? So prepare early, think far ahead, and even once you get to college, I think I had a kind of mistake in high school where my end goal in high school was to get into college, and I didn't really think too much after that. After I got into undergrad, I spent the first kind of year and a half really thinking about what I wanted to do, and I really started looking into what it takes to become a doctor. Because I feel like everyone, for the most part, when you're growing up, you hear your parents or you hear other people saying oh, become a doctor, it's not that bad. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication, and if you're someone who wants to walk this road, make sure you have the mental preparation ahead of time. And to kind of conclude, I have one last thing to say, and it's don't compare yourself to others. I think everyone will hear this at some point. You'll probably hear it more and more as you get older, but really thief is the comparison of joy. Sorry, next slide. Oh wait, okay, well, sorry, I guess this slide might not have updated, but thief really is the comparison of joy. When I was at my lowest in high school, senior year, I didn't know what I was going to do after high school for the most part. I was procrastinating a lot of my work. I kept comparing myself to others. I compared myself to my friends who got in. I compared myself to the people I didn't think should have gone in who did get in, and I was in a really low spot. So everyone will walk their own journey. Everyone will experience their own paths, I guess. You're bound to have setbacks. You're bound to have successful moments. So don't let anyone else's successes or failures define your own path, because ultimately everyone will experience things differently. Thank you.
And now next up we have Kerry Chu, who is in his first year and studying computer engineering.
school, there really isn't that much you can do about your grades. Like honestly, if you keep it up, like a 3.8, 3.9, that's pretty good. And then I took the ACT because I like fast-paced stuff more. I think it's actually really important that you do take the SAT or ACT because I think it gives you more competitive edge. Like I know a lot of colleges and unis say that, oh, we don't care. I don't really believe that because like a lot of, I mean like it's not a bad thing to have a good score, right? Like it's not gonna do harm to you. But if you have a score that's like below 1500, but it's also a competitive school, I probably wouldn't put it on. But if you have a good ACT score, like anything above 33, definitely put it in. And if you have anything that's above 1500 for SAT, definitely put it in. So I went to Inglemoor, and the only really good thing about Inglemoor is that they have the full IB program. And a lot of my friends got in because a lot of them took full IB. Like out of all the friends I know, 99% got in just because they took full IB. Like I think it's because not only does Inglemoor have a good reputation of a lot of kids getting into UW, which we do. I think we have the highest amount of people that get into UW out of every single high school in North Shore District. So you also can take the IB because it is like it stands out more. And you could also take Running Start, but I think it's kind of like a waste of an opportunity because every single high school has that. So if you really do want to go that route, you could. And you also do get your associate's degree, so you could start like 2 years early if that's the path you want to take. And you also do get a taste of college literally as your junior year starts, but you do lose a lot of connections in high school as well. So it really depends on what you want to do. For the ECs, as you can see, that's what I did. I did school stuff, and basically I just did work in baseball and some sports. So robotics and Hanka-Lumpus, I got introduced to these things as I was a junior. Hanka-Lumpus is something from Microsoft, and it was a class that I took that some people here know about, and they also did that, I believe, literally last year. And robotics is something that I kind of didn't really know what I was doing, so my best friend kind of just guided me through everything. So that was really good. And so my advice is to start doing everything early. So if you're doing full IB and you are a senior, prepare to get your life wrecked. Your sleep schedule is probably gonna get pretty bad because you have your IAs, you have your IOs, you have your EE that you have to finish, and you also have your application, which is a lot of essays. And while on the topic, your personal statement is extremely important. Like I know it's only like what 300 to 500 words, but it tells a story of you, right? Like as he said earlier, everyone has the stats. Like everyone has the stats. MIT, whatever school you're applying to, a 4.0 GPA is just like it's nothing. It's just so common that it doesn't matter. But what sets you out is your extracurriculars, what you do, and your personal statement. Your personal statement is what sets you apart from everyone else. So don't pick a boring story of, oh, I survived COVID, or something about, oh, my parents immigrated from here, and then this is how I struggled, blah, blah, blah. That's boring. Say something that's unique. Don't say something that everyone else can just like yap about or just lie about. Right? You want to say something that's uniquely to you. So for example, I wrote about not having a dad when I was growing up, and my mom wasn't even at home, so I didn't really have parents. I guess traditionally in that sense. So I was brought up by people that weren't my parents. I brought up by my grandparents, blah, blah, blah. So that was unique to me, right? And we also came to America in 2019 as Hong Kong was getting taken over by China. So that's also another unique thing that is also only particular to me. So do something that is only unique to you. Don't say something that anyone else can replicate. And also make sure that you're not using words that are too complicated. Like you don't want to flare it up. Like, cause these people, like the college admissions officers, they look through these things like so fast. They honestly probably just skim through it. So you want to have the good parts you just want to have good parts. Like it doesn't matter what kind of language you're using as long as it's grammatically correct and it gets your story out in a good in a good, clear, concise format, then that's would be honestly a really good personal statement. And why I say that is because I have a lot of my friends and peers and some of my teachers read my personal statement. They thought it was extremely good. And I think it also helped a lot with all the colleges I applied to. I only got rejected by UC Berkeley and UCLA. I don't really want to go there anyway. They suck. UCLA, like it's just fires. Like honestly, like I read their reviews. Like you're not even going. You're just online school. But I got waitlisted into UIUC. I got waitlisted into U Michigan. I got waitlisted into I got into Northeastern. I got into UW. I got into Irvine. I got into Davis. So it was pretty good. But yeah, your personal statement's the only thing that really sets you apart alongside your extracurricular. So make sure that, and also have a good relationship with your teachers and counselors. My personal counselor, my school counselor, she never really read my emails till like 3 weeks later. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get another teacher to be, I guess, like my counselor. So for me, I had Miss Monahan. I know I didn't really know her that long, but I had her enough in my classes that she knew me well enough. And I can't emphasize this because my letters of rec were probably really, really bad. Because my English teacher, I didn't really have the same one. I had 4 different teachers in my 4 years of high school. So I think it's very important to get to know your teachers, get to have a good impression on them. And the only thing I actually regretted I didn't have is my math teacher. She had me for 2 years, and I think she was probably the best teacher that I had so far. And I probably should have had her write my letter of rec, but no, I did English, I did CS, and I did physics, which isn't bad. I probably should have done like something that like people knew me more. Like, and for IB, that's the good part because you have the same teacher for 2 years. So I think having a good relationship with teachers and counselors is extremely, extremely important. Because the letters of rec are also pretty good boosters to have on your application. Although I don't really know what they said, it's probably a good thing to have. But yeah, that's all I have.
Now we have Ryan Liu, who is also in his first year and currently studying engineering.
Hi, I'm Ryan Liu. So I went to a school in Renton called Hastings High School. It's like a larger school. Well, it's not, but anyway, what I was trying to say, when he was talking about letters of rec, my letters of rec were pretty bad too. I never had a teacher twice, and when I was going through high school, I never really thought about the college application process because I was like, okay, I have good grades, I always take the arts classes, and I do sports and other extracurriculars, so I'm gonna be fine, right? And then I got to actually applying, and I'm like, I don't have any relationship to any teacher. My counselor is new, he doesn't know anything about the application process, and there's only 5 counselors, I think it was 4 for me, 4 counselors for 1,800 students, 1,800 students. So my counselor didn't really know me. So I just tried. I asked a bunch of teachers if they would write me letters of rec, and then my AP physics teacher wrote me one, and she was like, this is kind of bad. So she sent me a draft of it, and it was written. It looked like it was written by a middle schooler, but I just had to. Other thing I want to talk about is the SAT. I never really got the score I wanted because I would get a 15 something on practice exams, and then I wouldn't score so well on the real exam. But I would say before the summer or during the summer, you want to finish up all of the SAT, the summer before you apply, because I was trying to get, I want to take it one more time so I can get that score in all the way in October, November, and it was I was already burnt out then because I was writing all these essays and trying to figure out how to actually apply, because it felt like no one around me really knew how the process worked, and I was kind of overwhelmed. So I think being here today, like you guys already show like you want to learn about the process early, and that's like really the best thing is learning what you're supposed to do early, because I kind of did everything late and it kind of struggled. Because like my school, I think the counselor told me only 14 kids from my graduating class got into UW, and it was like 456 kids. So yeah, it was kind of rough. But I want to touch on the extracurriculars. I would say like really push yourself and challenge yourself, because I did soccer my whole life. I did school soccer at the same time I did club soccer. Every year I tried like a new sport or something. I did a swim freshman year. I did a cheer team. That was kind of fun. I did FBLA. I was on the class board. I did some summer programs. Just like try new things and try to explore what your passion is, because I didn't know what I wanted to do even when I was applying. I was like, I'm good at STEM, but also like I like all the subjects. I liked everything that I did. So
I second that.
yeah, it was hard to choose. But I met like a professor at that Stanford summer session, and he like kind of inspired me to use my passion for like STEM to kind of change the world, like build solar panels and whatever. And trying to think, I was gonna say something, but yeah, and the personal statement, your essay is really gonna separate you. Like your stats or extracurriculars get you one foot into the door, but you need the other half of the application is really these essays that tell you who you really are. They don't want just a student who's doing all the classes and extracurriculars to get into college. They want a student that is passionate and likes to work for their goals and their aspirations. And another thing is like, don't take everything too seriously. You want to put your full effort in, but you expect yourself to be perfect. A phrase I like to go with is like, be sincere, but not too serious. One last thing is when you're doing these extracurriculars and taking these classes, you're not just learning math or learning English. You're learning how to be a good student. You're learning time management. Don't skip out on your chores, because you need to learn how to be a responsible adult too. You're really learning like how to be an adult that will thrive in the world, and that's what I would say. That's what I would tell myself at the beginning of high school.
Next up, we have Quinn Yi going into their second year, majoring in biochemistry and going for pre-health sciences.
Hi, I'm Quinn. I'm a rising sophomore at UW, so I'm in my second year this year. I got in as a pre-health science, and I want to get into biochemistry. So I didn't apply for biochemistry. I applied for pre-health sciences, which is pre-med, but it's not a major. It's just a track for students to pick different STEM programs that are under the medical field. Next slide. Okay, click it again. All right. So in high school, I discovered that I really liked chemistry, and to my dismay, chemistry doesn't pay very well. So the next thought, so I just brainstormed some ideas of what else I could do, and I landed on potentially pharmacy. Alright, and then, yeah. So I did my research on some schools, and I discovered that UW has a pretty good pharmacy program as a graduate school. So I would have to do an undergrad either at UW or somewhere else to get my bachelor's degree before going into pharmacy school. I did do a summer program that is like a sort of introductory thing to the different fields of pharmacy that I discovered there's a lot. There's space pharmacy, there's obviously hospital stuff, and then there's like pharmaceutical sciences and all of that. So do your research. And also realistic goals and limitations. Everyone is worried about the cost of attendance. I know that's a lot, that's a big thing on everyone's mind. Even if your parents say, don't worry about the cost, you are going to worry about the cost. So I prefer something in-state, something close to home, because I would not handle homesickness very well. And then also think about the program requirements and prerequisites, which is also what goes into research. I unfortunately, you can get to the next slide, but unfortunately, a lot of the schools that I had applied to rejected me because of a math requirement that I didn't fulfill, or wasn't high enough level. I had a teacher recommend that I take a math class under the IB program, and I didn't realize that it was algebra based and not calculus based. And many of the schools that I tried to apply to, like McGill and UC Michigan, gave me the reason as that math class that I didn't take. However, UW did accept my application, so I'm very happy that I got into there. But yeah, think about the different school choices, and with that, what programs are in those schools, what their strengths are. I think also thinking about like school culture. I didn't apply to any Ivy League schools because I didn't, I'm not gonna like, go into like a fantasy land where I could apply to want to get in. I'm not an Ivy League student person, and realistically, that wasn't gonna happen. So if I were to apply, it would have been for fun. But think about those. Testing was a big topic. I did take the SAT once. I got a score that wasn't bad, but wasn't outstanding. So I didn't put it on my applications at all. And I didn't take the ACT. I think personally, if you're not someone who does well with standardized testing, I don't really suggest that you do it. It's a lot of stress. And that environment is just really stressful, and I think you can skip out on that experience of stress because it's not very, colleges don't really emphasize that anymore, especially UW. UW is optional. For essays, also, I wrote my essay during the summer pretty much, or I wrote it in an English class during junior year, and gave it to my teacher, and she was like, you could definitely apply with this essay, and the big thing about it is you have to make it personal to you. I wrote it about my Chinese name, and the things that I struggled with that, so that is very personal to me. And after talking to one of my professors at UW who does look at those essays, that is a huge determining factor for if you are accepted into schools or not. If you don't give them a sense that you are a person with goals and a personality, they're just gonna toss your application to the side. Also, I think definitely having at least a draft ready for your essays before senior year starts is a good idea. So then you could also get help from your English teachers or any other teacher that you may like to see if that essay really represents who you are. You can ask friends even. I know I passed my essay around to friends to see if there's anything I could change about it, and that's very helpful. And classes, obviously, what you challenge yourself, but don't stress about it. Do your best. I took a bunch of IB classes, but I didn't do full IB. I only tested in 2 of them. I took one AP class because I didn't want to do IB history. I am very bad at history, not my strong suit. So I took AP history that I did not get a good score at all. So I left that out. I tested in English and chemistry for IB. I got a good score on both of those. But taking those higher level classes does help a little bit in showing that you do challenge yourself. But you have to just do your best. Even if you do those regular classes, it's not gonna really diminish your chances as long as you are doing your best. And it shows. And extracurriculars, I think one of the things that stood out about my application specifically is the range of things I put on those extracurriculars. I work at a senior retirement facility. I also started a fashion club at school. I got a city award for some art that I did. So putting yourself out there and having experiences outside of academics and diving more into hobbies is important, because that also shows to the person who's reading your application that you are a person with interests outside of academics. You're not a robot. You are a person with likes and dislikes. Yeah. And some extra reiterations, like Jin and Carrie said, and Ryan. I think don't stress. High school is a time where you have a safety net that you will not have anywhere else. Once you get into college, you are on your own. No one's there to tell you when to wake up. No one's there to tell you when to study or how to study. Those are up to you. And so using those resources you have in high school and making connections in high school with your friends, your teachers, your peers. You don't have to be friends with everyone. Just kind of know people. That's enough. Going into, out of my friend group, I'm the only one who went to UW. So it was a little lonely. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little lonely my first year. But finding people, learning how to communicate with people is very important. These are all pictures from high school. I think making the most of that safety net and just trying new things. You don't have to like them. If you don't like them, you don't have to pursue them, but trying. Just try and fail. Because in high school you can fail and the repercussions will be less significant than if you were to fail later on in life. That's all I have.
Now lastly, we have Gigi Zhou in her first year and majoring in psychology.
That's for last, right? So yes, hi, I'm Gigi. Nice to meet everyone. I'm gonna be, in the same path. I'm a pre-science major technically, but I will be applying to psychology, and that's what I hope to get in. I'm in the class of 2029, so I'm the first year. I was like a lot of people here, born and raised in Seattle, so you guys do know that UW is kind of like this dream for a lot of people. Like you go every year with your family to see the cherry blossoms. You probably saw that TikTok with like the Harry Potter library. So for me, there's always just been like this destination I saw myself at. I think it became kind of a reality for me when I did this internship, which is what these pictures are from, in my sophomore year, my sophomore summer. It was in the Berg Lab at UW. It was like a genome sciences thing, which I was not qualified for at all. We were like doing surgery on fruit flies, it was crazy. And like, that may not have been my thing. I realized realized that UW is a place I do want to be at. The campus is beautiful. I really love the people I met there. The professors, you could tell that they were passionate and they really did care about kind of what they did, at least the ones I met. And I just made me really excited to apply. And I knew for sure between the location, I knew I didn't want to go out of state. I knew that because I was an in-state student, it was going to be much more affordable to me, like what Quinn said. So the decision was pretty easy. And my email's right there in case anyone wants to contact me ever. Next slide. Thank you. And I think everyone covered like the really good points. So I think I'm just gonna delve into kind of like some tips and tricks when doing each step of the application process. So it's kind of what mine looked like. For choosing a major, I kind of really settled on psychology during my junior year. So this is when I was doing Running Start or dual enrollment, which Ryan mentioned a bit. And I met this really dope professor. He was my psych professor. He was just, he made teaching really fun, and he really made me fall in psychology. I love people. I love talking to people, understanding people, so I thought I wanted to do something meaningful with my career too, so I thought psychology was a really good fit for that. And you don't have to 100% know what you're gonna do in the future, but right now it's good to just have a major picked out, just so it's gonna make the whole application thing a lot easier too. And so if that's somewhere in that submission day, this is kind of like a bad graph because everything is really veered on this side for me. I ended up really procrastinating during like the summer part, and I ended up doing basically everything here within like the last week, right before the UW submission window ended. And that is like the #1 tip. I do not recommend doing that. You can't procrastinate. If there was like a time to really lock it down and kind of like focus, it's now, I swear. But I'm gonna get into that later. We could start moving down the path. So first for the personal statement, like what everyone said here, it's basically the most important part of your application that you have control over right now. Like your grades, your junior, your senior, like the years have passed, what's done is done. Right now, it's to make sure that your personal statement is, once again, personal to you. And what UW is looking for, from what I've heard from admissions officers, is that they're looking for someone who has faced adversity, not like a sob story, but someone who kind of overcame adversity and could be someone who faces challenges, overcomes them, and learns from them. So try to kind of tier your story toward that. They also really want you to kind of focus on a specific character trait that you learned through that adversity. So I would, really dig into that. For personal statements, like what Ryan said, Carrie said, you're really not supposed to write about COVID. That's the one thing that everyone said to me, do not write about COVID. Everyone wrote about COVID. So everything that could be said is said. And we'll kind of move on. Common App. Who here, it opened August 1st, congrats. Who here has started on their Common App? Yeah. That's really good. Okay, but I do want to say, if you did start on your Common App, make sure that your personal essay is already done. That is the #1 thing you should be finishing. Because Common App, I kind of see it as like busy work. You're putting your classes in, you're putting your grades in. That's like a really good thing to be doing. You're like November when like it's the end of the quarter and things get kind of hard. So you really do want to do that later. Right now you have to do your personal essay, hunker down. I didn't do that, I had to learn from that. I hit a block on my personal statement and I kind of turned to my Common App, and at the end I really had to panic and kind of stress to get the personal statement done. So #1 recommendation. Another thing is that the Common App is like very picky. Like you have to put things in a very specific way. So I just really recommend doing it with a friend or with like an advisor just right next to you, putting it in. I also made that mistake, believe it or not. Like I just did it like over coffee with a friend. And like the entire thing was wrong. I took it to like the counselor, she had to read and everything. So make sure you do it in advance because you need time for that. What else? Do not force an early decision. Don't submit early. Like if you don't think you're ready, it's never good for anybody. Another piece of advice, the activity section on your Common App is kind of the most difficult part, so I would start with that first. The little writing section you do, if you saw the Common App, it's like, that's what the admissions people are seeing, so make sure you're using good grammar, dot your T's, cross your I's, that's what I had to say about the Common App. We could circle over onto financial aid. FAFSA is after submission day, but you should be doing financial aid all the time. Like everyone in this room, there is a grant, a scholarship you can apply for. You should do that right now. The kind of websites I use are fastweb.com and Scholarship America. Quick tip for that, you should never have to pay to apply to a scholarship. If you do, that's like just antithetical to what the whole point is. Don't pay to apply a scholarship. And kind of really important that I say for FAFSA is right when it opens up, which is in like, I think December, January, you have to do that ASAP as soon as possible, because for FAFSA, to an extent, it is first come, first serve. Me and my friend, we got the same SAI score, but because she did hers in the beginning of the period and I did mine at the end, our aid amounts given through FAFSA was very different. So please do that first. If it comes to worse and like you've gone to the school and it's just really expensive, it's not over yet. There are still ways you can try to pay for that. You could choose a lower dining plan, get a couple roommates, smaller room. There's ways to make that work, so don't panic too hard. But yeah, we'll make it over finally submission day. Woo! Right now, but my advice for that is just relax after. You deserve it. Go to the spa, treat yourself to dinner. I know I did. It's just, you deserve it. Congratulations. And don't think too much about it after. Because after the end of submission, like, you probably have a lot of other submissions coming too, so take the break while you can. But yeah, next slide. I'm just gonna go over some general advice too, some do's and don'ts. My first do, I think someone already covered over here, challenges, but I could switch that. Do write everything down also, like the list of colleges you wanna go to, write that down. Your ideas for personal essays, personal statements, write that down. Any notes you get from like everyone, write that down. Make sure you have like I see some pens going right now, so you're already doing that. Next thing, don't make basic mistakes. This kind of goes hand in hand with don't procrastinate, don't wait till the last minute to do this. Give yourself time to double check, triple check, quadruple check. Cause like I said, the Common App, the FAFSA, they're all very picky. So make sure that everything is right, cause like a mistype on income can mean the difference, and like you just don't want to make those mistakes. A basic mistake is not a small mistake. Do surround yourself with like-minded people. My friends are the greatest asset, I think, throughout the application, not only for like, I don't know, mutual cheering up, but like, you could catch their mistakes, they could catch yours. I learned a lot through reading other people's essays, through giving feedback and getting feedback. I think that's a really powerful process. And don't discount your counselors. And if there's any like college groups in your schools, join them. Like, I promise that's kind of the stepping out of your comfort zone bit. Like, just do it, I promise, like everyone's there for the same goal. You are what you eat. It's good to surround yourself with good people. And finally, don't allow yourself to get tunnel vision. While you're applying to college, it's your last year of high school, and I think people mentioned, like, you have to go and have fun. It's like the very last time you're gonna be in this environment with these people. You're never gonna be able to recreate it. Go to HOCO, go to football games, don't let yourself kind of get pigeonholed into where you are. And then really quickly, just to add, I kind of missed this point earlier, but I think a reason why I thought I stood out was one, I was doing dual enrollment. I didn't have very great stats actually. I had like a 3.9, which is very unimpressive. Like I bombed my SAT, I didn't even submit it. What else? I did like one AP. Like it was the required one in sophomore year. So there were no IBs at my school. So what I did was I did dual enrollment. I started in junior year, I did Seattle Central College. And why I think that's really good is it helped me dodge, not only like for here, it helped me dodge all the weed out classes, which are like the hard ones. The intro classes are really hard, made to like take students out. I've heard rumors about those. So I don't have to do those. And I think it also showed that I was taking rigorous courses, and I was someone who was independent and someone who kind of was willing to challenge themselves and already had kind of like the college experience that I think gave me an edge above other people. I think another unique section about me was that I had really good extracurriculars. For me, I kind of did a lot of nonprofit work. I think that also really lined up convenient with my interests and my major. So I did like youth mentoring, I did youth violence prevention, and I just really put my heart into that, and I feel like that made me stand out too. But yeah, Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Q&A.
Oh yeah, so if anyone has any questions for anybody, just go for it. I have a question for Carrie. What for the personal statement? What if I had a great life? What if I like never would have to do
Never face adversity.
not never.
Well, don't make something up. And if you had a great life, then that's awesome. I think something that you can definitely write about is maybe something about family relationships, I suppose. Because if you had a great life, I'm assuming that's pretty good. So maybe you can, because not a lot, I know a lot of teens probably don't have very great parents. So you can definitely write about that. And you can also write about, I guess you can write about like your relationship with your parents, how you learn from them. Because my stepdad, Robert, I guess the only white guy here actually, he taught me a lot of stuff. He made me do chores, which I absolutely hated, but I had to do it because apparently I'm the only one in my dorm that actually knows how to do chores. So that's gonna be fun. But yeah, so like learn as much as you can from your parents. They will teach you very good things. Like even though I hated my parents for a short period of my life, going through puberty, I think as I grew up, I really understood the value of what my parents did for me, right? Like as I was writing like my first draft of my personal statement, I cried because of how much my mom has done for me. So try to learn from your parents as much as possible, even though you don't want to hear it, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm doing this for the interest of you." They are. I mean, unless it's something that's so far unreaching that it's like, yeah, wait. But they are really doing what they can for you. And if you're a firstborn child, this is their first time having a kid, so it's their first time as well. So do be grateful to them. They're trying their best. I think it's very important that you try to learn from them. And if you need advice from them, I think it's actually essential that you do that as well.
So, you mentioned something about a pre-dental track.
Yeah.
What is that?
So I think, I'll say this at least for UW. For the most part, I think across the country, pre-dental or pre-med, it's a track in the sense that it's not a design major. Similar to kind of what Quinn was saying about pharmacy, it's your goal is to eventually get into, for instance, dental school or medical school, and it's the, I guess, 4-year kind of track that you're on. It's nothing that's like a solidified, like you'll find out online, it's like, oh, like you have to do this and be pre-dental, but it's like, I know I want to be in dentistry one day, so it's the classes I'm taking, it's the extracurriculars I'm doing in undergrad, it's, you know, all these different things that I am doing in order to achieve that goal. That being said, though, there are a lot of schools across the country that have things called, I think, BSMD or DDS, and it's like a joint, usually 7 to 8 year program where as soon as you're admitted into the school in undergrad, you're basically guaranteed admission into either dental school or a med school. I think it's usually more common for med school than it is for dental school. And those schools are really, really competitive to get into, but those schools, it's like, if you're accepted, you're like literally guaranteed to become a doctor, usually for the most part, if you go through it, yeah.
Do you have any tips for when you're writing personal statement? If you hit like a roadblock, like how to keep writing, even if you hit that roadblock?
I think just take a break. Honestly, yeah, take a break, come back to it, like the next day or the day after. Clear your mind from it because a lot of writer's block is actually just you have been at it for too long. It's the same thing with studying. If you've been studying for too long, all of the information that you've just learned is going to leak right out. Taking breaks is essential. Also, like, you could go back to like what the core idea is that you want to get in that essay, and then bring it to like a teacher or something. Bring it to a counselor, someone you trust. Ask friends for any advice. I think those are a couple of ways you can try and get out of that little writer's rut.
so this is for all of you. Do you think the extracurriculars you take and like the accolades you have, should they be more related to what you're going into in that college, or should it be showing what skills and what like values you've learned doing that?
I think it's more important that you actually do something you like. Because like if you're doing something, like if I'm doing like CE, I had an internship for a computer-based company in China. So that I really enjoyed that. So if you're doing something that you don't even like you're doing like sailing just for the sake of sailing, like that's just boring. I mean, like I'm saying this because someone in my school got into MIT by doing competitive sailing. She obviously likes it. But definitely do something that you like, and if it helps, obviously do something that is related to that major that you're trying to. But don't do something just for the sake of doing it, because that's just like, that's gonna take away you. That's not you, that's just stats.
I think adding on, there was like a sort of like med club at the school I was going to, at Livermore. I didn't join it because I didn't really have an interest in specifically like being a doctor. I think it's just important that you know what you want to be doing. Also, I think back to what I was saying about trying and failing, and maybe you don't like something you try. Don't put that on your application, obviously, because that's not you. Put stuff that feels meaningful to you. I put my art accolades on there because that's meaningful for me. I think I didn't have any like academic clubs I was in. I co-founded a fashion club, but that's something I enjoyed, and that also shows like leadership. I think just weighing different, weighing like the pros and cons of what you put on there.
I would add on to that, like at UW, you're not just a student studying your major. You're also, when I was accepted, we had to do orientations, and something they really emphasized was like being involved in the community. So like none of my extracurriculars were geared towards engineering at all. I did 4 years in marching band, I did the cheer team, so I think they already said it. I just wanted to say, like, just do things you really like to do and you want to spend time getting better at, and you want to make an impact on. Go ahead.
Yeah, do any of you have like a private counselor, like a counselor outside of school? Or do your friends have? How do you feel about the private counselor?
I can talk about that a bit. So for us, because we're in the South End, UW kind of sends down a group. It's called the UW STEM Sub, and they're not exactly private counselors, but they do help like underprivileged families and like people of color get into UW. And basically, they send a couple people down. It's like 3 people, and it's for like a couple schools. I wasn't in the program, but I got to sit in the room because my friend was there. Connection people, that's important. But and basically, a lot of people were like ex-admission counselors or like current admission counselors for other schools, so they were really helpful. It's not exactly private, but I'm sure there's like a lot of programs that UW does themselves that helps other areas too. So
Yeah, that's really cool. So I was like kind of, I figured out how to do the admissions process late, right? So my dad knew a person who was like an editor, like for writing essays. So he helped me on my personal statement. But I would say like, lots of college like counselors, private ones, are really expensive. For a lot of people tell me they're scams. A lot of people tell me they're really helpful. So I don't really know. I just know that the guy who helped me edit was really helpful. Yeah, he helped me write, and that's all.
I did have a private counselor. I personally don't think I needed one. way I am. But like she didn't do any edits on my essay at all because she was like, oh, this looks really good already. So I didn't have to do any of that. And I had like, I went to every session and I was like, I already did all of this. And I was just really on top of it. So if I could offer any advice, just stay on top of your tasks. Stay on top of deadlines. If you really need to, like, have a, like, be like, I'm gonna sit down, write this one paragraph, and then I'm gonna go off and do something else. And then come back like a couple days later and be like, okay, now I'm gonna sit down and write the next paragraph. Or if you get really into it, just write the whole thing. But I think it just depends on the kid. Really just depends on yeah.
Yeah, like for me, I could not have done it without the some people, like I physically, kind of a mess, I'm sorry.
So I'm also doing Running Start this year, so I wonder how like you balance college classes and high school experiences, and also like what are some activities you did in high school and what are some in like college? So.
Yeah, so I think for me, I kind of dropped off the entire high school scene. Like I tried to, there's like a thing where you could do like 3 classes there. You could take 1 class in your original school, right? So I did that. It was a morning class, and I was doing pretty good at the beginning of the year, but like as time went on, I just kind of, it was like Chinese, by the way, and I did Chinese. I ended up doing really badly in the class. I didn't go, so it's really hard to balance, like what Carrie said. You have to really make sure that it's worth it for you, and you're willing to give up. You will have to give up like a lot of your high school involvement, and there's just no way around it because you are not going to high school anymore. For me, Running Start advice, I would just say make sure you do it with like a group of maybe your friends from high school. That's what I did. I think that's how I ended up maintaining a lot of my relationships. They ended up being like my closest friends after. Yeah, and also really helped me with picking classes. And I would, really quickly for advice there, I would look for, there's like a UW like registry of like classes and how they transfer. I would make sure you take classes that transfer like into UW if you're hoping for that college. So really look that up, and that's my kind of biggest piece of advice for Running Start.
I'm gonna add sorry. I would add a little bit to that, specifically for the credit transfer. Also in the context of AB and IB courses, or AP and IB courses too, there's a lot of AP courses that UW basically doesn't really take. If you're taking AP biology in high school and say you get a 5, unfortunately that doesn't count for anything to cover the Gen Bio series at UW, and I think AP Lang, and like 1 or 2 of the others APs are like that. So if your goal is to go into UW and you're looking at what credits transfer or how many credits you get, make sure you kind of prepare for that ahead of time, or else there's a chance in high school. And I'm not saying that like challenging yourselves bad by taking these courses, but you won't get the full benefit of what you think you'll be getting going to UW. Yeah.
Talking about high school experience for a Running Start, I'm talking from like a non-Running Start student. Any of my friends that did Running Start, I never saw them again. There is one friend that did take like like the one like IB bio class. I only saw him passing grades, but other than that, I just never saw him again. And we were like I don't think he even talked to any of our friends in high school. So I think like just be ready to be in a completely different environment. It's like a new high school basically. So like be ready for that. You're gonna need to have new friends. So
I had one friend who did Running Start. We did keep in contact. I still talk to him. We hang out all the time still. I think it's just if you try to, you will be able to maintain those relationships. And I think that's where like texting your friends, like asking them to like after high school gets out, they can like come over to campus and like you can have like a little study day together, or like go out and have some like do something together just for fun. I think that's also in line with like taking breaks from studying and just keeping yourself stable.
How important are leadership roles to you?
Wait, sorry, can you say that one more time? I didn't catch the first half.
How important are leadership roles like in extracurriculars to
Like
you?
as in like high school applying it to UW?
Yeah, like high school leadership roles and stuff like
I
that.
think they're fairly important because it's like it's similar with like a lot of the other extracurriculars we kind of mentioned. I feel like leadership roles are a good way for you to show that you're someone who takes initiative, that you're someone who challenges yourself by putting yourself in maybe new environments, new situations where you're forced to adapt, you're forced to grow. And especially I think in the context of whether it's personal statement, when you're writing essays, or you get, for instance, like interviews from different schools that you're applying to, having those experiences, specifically the leadership ones, I think are something, or it's a good source of inspiration to pull from. And there's a lot of material that I think you can really gain from doing them. And like I think also leadership, it is a word that's thrown around a lot. I feel like, and it's like, you know, you don't have to be like the state president or like the president of your like whatever state chapter for like FBLA or something, but it's like, you know, doing small things that add up, because in the end it's the accumulation of all these different experiences that you pull from. And I think leadership is just one of the more prominent types that really helps supplement this kind of experience collection, I guess. Yeah.
Let's say you did an activity that had an impact, like, for me, I was a president of a club my freshman and sophomore year, and what I learned from that club was that it was really hard to like manage big things, but also like I still want to put it on my activities list. But should I be honest, like in my description, should I be like, oh, this club like taught me how to be a better president for my other club, but it ended up like falling apart? Or should I find a way to be honest, but like, or do I just say like, oh, I'm
You
president of
could,
this club and I do all
it
this
could be
stuff?
selective. You can say that you learned, like a couple, like whatever leadership, skills,
So is it better
to
to be
prep.
honest, or is it better to be
You don't
like?
get that many
better?
Not- not-
You don't
not-
get- I think
You
this
get like
is-
30.
You get like 30 words. You
Yeah.
can just describe what you did
Okay.
in the club. It's not supposed to be extensive. That description for extracurriculars is supposed to be a description. So for the fashion club thing that I did, I just put like weekly meetings, talked about like different trends happening, or like their little or like little traditions we would do and stuff like that. Organizing events. We were part of this. We helped our schools. There's like this little thrift room of people's secondhand clothes that we would help set up some outfits for to put out. Hopefully, so to entice people to come check out just this huge bin of secondhand clothes, pretty much, that were donated and washed, obviously. But I think just like little tidbits, you can be selective about it. You don't have to say what went wrong. You can just say you can just say what went right.
I want to add just like a tiny little bit on the end of that too. Another big thing is to make sure in any part of your application, you're never putting down anyone else, including yourself. So keep that in mind. Yeah.
I'm just really curious about for all you guys. Do you remember anything during your high school or during the process of education? Anything you think your parents helped or not, or could have been worse? Yeah, just yeah, I want to know if you have any suggestion for your like the parents here that
I mean, like, you're here right now and you're doing a lot, so. I mean, I think a lot of people understand it's like immigrant parents, while maybe for me personally, like maybe they can't be like 100% there like academically or with like the content, you could be there for your kid in so many other ways, like just making sure that they're well fed, they're sleeping well. Like, I think that's how my mom cared for me. So.
And I'll add a bit more to that too. I think as a parent, definitely navigating how much to help your kid in high school can be a very tricky balance. Because also it's like, you know, every teenager is different. Some might want to be more independent, some maybe are a little bit more dependent on their parents. I think communicating with your child is really important, but also knowing that there is a certain amount of freedom you shouldn't let them have. Because otherwise, if they, like hypothetically, let's say you've sheltered your kid all 4 years of high school, they hit college and they don't know how to wash their own clothes. Or like, I feel like a lot of skills that you probably would have picked up in high school if you allowed a kid to kind of have that freedom to kind of explore things and try things out. It's definitely difficult, but I think finding that balance and letting your kid figure out a lot of things for themselves is something that I would recommend to any parent.
Yeah, I think knowing what they're doing, just know what they're doing. You don't have to like be over their shoulder all the time. I think letting them figure it out, and I think if you're doing it right, they will come to you with their problems if they have any. Yeah, just don't hover too much because high school, like you are there, but they also have other safety nets like their teachers and friends to help them. So there are other places that they can find help. Good. So I think don't worry about it too much. Obviously, just know what they're doing, communicate with them. I think because if you're worried, that's gonna worry them. I know my mom worried a little bit, and that kind of transferred onto me. So I think just letting them experience the world, and if they fail at something, let them. That's a learning experience, and then they will come to you for help if they need to.
I think it's also dependent on the kid. So what my mom does is she always says this: 你想撞墙就撞墙嘛. She tells me not to do stuff, and I still do it. And then I taste it, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do it. So another thing is my parents are very lax on how my grades are. But like the only reason why they are like that, I think, is because I don't like getting bad grades. Like it's just kind of embarrassing. Like it's high school. Like this should be like pretty much free. So I do that on my. So that's on me, right? And I think that in itself teaches like you need to be responsible for yourself. And maybe for someone that's maybe not so motivated, I think there are ways to like inspire motivation, because I think self-motivation is something that is extremely important. It's just something that's just gonna take you very far in life.
Okay, I have two questions. One is for everybody. Are any of you open to share some of your personal statements or essays and afterwards, and just so we have a taste of what success looks like? The second question is for Ryan, and particularly about the engineering school. And do you have any insights to share about what UW Engineering School actually care about applicants and what are the factors they stress out most?
Which one do you want to answer first?
The first
Okay,
one.
okay.
I think you can answer that directly first.
All right. I still haven't gone to UW yet, but I know for sure that the engineering school cares a lot about taking the hardest classes you can for STEM. They look for, did you take AP Physics, or I mean, did you take physics? Did you take the hardest chemistry and the math? Yeah, chemistry, physics, math, they really care about. I'm not sure about anything else though. That's the only thing I really know.
I could give a little bit more for that. So UW kind of does this as a whole for a lot of their majors, but including the School of Engineering. When you're first admitted to the School of Engineering, unless it's like I think computer engineering, but even then that's like Allen School of CS, which is like a little different. If you're pre-engineering going to UW, you technically don't declare a major until you're like I think in your second or third year. And similar to like, for instance, if you're admitted for pre-science, there's a lot of prerequisite coursework that you kind of have to do at UW first, and then you'll apply for your specific like majors. And even then, it's like I've heard from some of my engineering friends, it's like you don't technically apply to the engineering like specialty you want, but it's more so like you'll get matched. So similar to how like, for instance, like kind of like in medical school, right? When you're matched with residencies, it's similar to that where you kind of give your top 3 picks. So for instance, like a lot of my friends said like they wanted electrical engineering first and like mechanical second, or like aerospace third. And then off of that, you're kind of given a major, which can kind of suck. So engineering at UW, it is a little bit of luck, but if you're able to be admitted into the School of Engineering, then you're at least guaranteed some engineering major later on.
But still, before you go, you know that you're already admitted into the school. So
Yes.
when you apply, you need to apply for that school.
Yeah, in your acceptance letter, it'll say like, welcome to the School of like Engineering, for instance. And so if you see that on your admissions letter, then that means you were accepted into the school that you're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the
Personal statement.
Like to share.
Yeah, my email's up there if you want it, you can email me, send you the
Okay,
file.
thank you. There is a parent's question. Oh, they finish? No, yeah.
You guys want to share your personal statement?
Mine's on right now.
I
Okay.
don't know.
I'm open to sharing mine. If you want to talk to me, I'll give you my contact info. I didn't think about putting it on there, but I can definitely send what I have. I think mine was a very non-traditional personal statement. So I'm open to sharing mine. But the question on this paper is how to choose your major. Or it's
Well, for me, I completely didn't really know what I was doing until I was applying. I have a best friend called Eric. He wanted to do engineering, and I like to think that we are similarly minded in that way. When I was a kid, I was like 12. I built my own PC because I just wanted to play video games, and my parents are like, oh, you can do engineering and blah blah blah. Like, I just want to play video games. But actually, it turns out that I actually really liked learning about like what PC parts did, what computers, like how computers kind of just work. And the internship in China also taught me that I probably will be doing this major. I think choosing your major is like, it's not super important because a lot of the majors, at least in UW, is pre-something. So you still have 2 years to figure out what you want to do, unless you already know you want to do CS or CE. Those two, I believe, are the only ones that you're locked in for. But you also still can't change out of. You just can't change. It's just very hard to change into those two. So it's very versatile. You can change. You can choose. But to actually answer the question, how do you choose one? I think it's just what you envision yourself doing in a day job, right? Like maybe you don't want to sit in a computer and just code for like 24 hours a day. I definitely don't want to do that. It seems kind of boring. Or maybe you can, I don't know, maybe you like to be a doctor or be a surgeon and try to save lives as best as you can. So maybe just try to envision yourself doing something, or like just trying to put yourself in other shoes and try to see, is this something I would like to do?
I think also knowing what you want out of life, in a bigger sense, what brings you. I think it's important in high school to have multiple experiences of things you like and things you don't like for this reason of finding what gives you meaning, what finding purpose. This is very big concept, but I think finding those things that you don't like and then finding those things that you do like and then matching that to career choices. But I also think if you decide on a major now, you can still choose something else later. Maybe you go in and you're like, actually, I don't really like this. UW and other schools have a lot of options for you to explore. So other than taking core classes, you can also take art. Maybe you take a dance class. Take something super niche, something that's a class of 20 even. Even though those classes are very hard to get into, but finding different things to do, joining clubs that are not necessarily part of that career choice that you're trying to make. But yeah, I think it's not something you need to worry about. You have time to decide, and you have time to change that decision.
I have 2 additional examples I'll kind of add on to that. So I know 2 people. One person, she's way older. She's like I think 4 or 5 years older than I am. She initially applied for UW for CS, was given general admission under pre-sciences, and went to dentistry. She's now a third year in dental school. And I have another friend who is just 1 year older than I am. He got into he got into UW for CS Direct, and in his junior year, as in this past year, he wanted to switch to medical. So he's doing a complete 180 despite having already finished half the CS program, and he's now taking all of the prerequisite courses for medical. So even though like these kinds of occurrences aren't common necessarily, but it is entirely possible to completely pivot into different careers. And I know there's a lot of people who are in medical or who want to be a doctor later on and get burned out in the first year or two, because at UW, honestly, the weed out classes you take in first years are really rough. You have literally 400 to 500 students in a room, and you have one professor. And it's not entirely the professor's intention to lead people out, but granted, given the capacity of students that they have to teach and however many like students that they can actually realistically pass, it is very cutthroat. And UW is not an easy school, I'll say that. So I'm not saying this to scare anyone, but it's if you go into UW with the intention of becoming whatever it is that you want to become, there is no final, I guess, say that you have to do this unless you yourself really want to change.
Also, I will say, I think first year, obviously, like first year into UW, I finished mine. I didn't do great grades-wise. I definitely think I could have done better, but also it's not something to beat yourself over the head with. You have to just do your best. If you're determined to go on a certain path, it will show. It will show in your grades. You can tank your first semester, your first quarter. You can absolutely destroy that GPA on your first quarter. But as long as you're making improvements over the years, it'll show your dedication to a certain thing. I think that not really related to that major thing, but more open to interpretation.
Oh yeah, another thing about envisioning what kind of job you want to have is it's a wide range. They all have different type of lifestyles. You have a teacher that gets your summer off, but you also have to grade hella stuff. You have a doctor. My brother is a phlebotomist right now. He has to get up at 5:30, and then he has to sleep at like 8 or 9, which is honestly kind of like I can't do it. And then you also have doctors. They just have really irregular working schedules because just like you can't determine when a person's sick or like needs surgery, right? And my stepdad, he's a therapist, so you can just do online stuff. You can just do it at home. So it's just really about like what you kind of want to have as a job, what kind of lifestyle you want to have. I think that also probably might help how you want to choose.
And for the job thing, I think what I've been taught is like there's like a trifecta. It's like what you like, what you're good at, and what kind of makes you money. Like I would love to be a singer. It's gonna make a lot of money, and I really like singing, but I'm also horrible at it, so it's just never gonna happen for me. And you need to just hit the full trifecta to have like a good life, and in my opinion. And I think your major, if you are going to school for a major, I think it should connect to a job in my personal opinion. So I think that's my thing.
And I want to say even though I'm doing engineering, I still don't know if I want to be an engineer. I just chose I think the number one thing is research and experience other jobs. I did engineering because I thought, well, I can still do dental or medical afterwards. I just have to do the prerequisites and then test into a medical or dental school. So in order to figure out if dental is good for me, I shadowed a couple dentists, and still I'm not really sure how I feel about it. Seems really hard and also kind of boring. But also it's not that boring. It seems really interesting too. So it's something I have to still look into, and I think that's all I have to say about it.
I think in terms of job search, like I said, I like chemistry. Chemists don't make a lot of money unless they work for the government or something, and I don't want to work for the government because boring. That just sounds not fun to me. I think it is knowing yourself that will get you to those careers. You have to know what you like and what you don't like, and you're never going to know unless you try something. Or you have really strong opinions about it already.
Are we done?
Any more questions?
Any questions?
Any more questions?
Okay, I guess that's it then. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope you all learned something good today. I guess.
Yes.
很感谢我们这5位优秀的同学啊，再给他一个掌声。其中一个 member， 一个 organizer， 一个 volunteer， 我叫兰。然后我们 come out 这个分享会的 idea 是因为现在越来越多的我们本州的学生基本上都是报华大的，都会报华大。然后呢，而且华大这几年的排名也一直在上升，然后那个这个竞争也比以前激烈。以前是保底的学校，现在很多我们都会去 first choice 或者 second choice 都会争取进这个华大，所以我们今天就请这5位已经考上华大跟在华大读书的几位同学来做一个他们个人的分享，而且这里全部代表他们自己的意见呢。然后包括我们也请了刚才莫妮卡也跟我们讲了一下，所以十分感谢大家今天来参与我们这个活动，也感谢我们这5个朋友啦，这5个小朋友啦，然后不是小朋友，大朋友，我们的来参加的家长，还有我们各位义工。我们这个活动我们还是需要义工的支持。我们这个 HEY 是一个非盈利机构，所以我们会定期的举办一些对孩子跟对社区有意义的活动。然后我们也需要大家如果有 idea come out， 有什么东西想分享，也可以联系我们。还有就是说我们也需要大家的来帮我们做一些义工，包括我们也希望大家给我们赚一点款，如果可以的话。就是我们需要一个组织continue去进行，所以谢谢大家，今天就十分感谢你们5位，然后感谢大家。
我们有没有那个 WeChat group 或者是那个
WeChat group 有。好，我们可以一会儿讲。还有如果哪位对那个可以找我们几位义工都可以，还有哪位同学或者家长，你们想留下你们的那个 email 啊，我们可能会做一个 feedback 的 survey， 跟大家